Hi, I left you hanging yesterday. Oh my gosh, they had like ridden dolphins up to the surface and they had crashed up onto the surface and they had just gotten there. And let's see, Ty collapsed next to Gemma, groaning as my broken ribs hit the hard deck. My teeth chattered as my body shook. Weirdly, Gemma didn't seem to feel the cold at all. She didn't tremble or roll into a ball. My dad peeled, no, Pa peeled back one of her eyelids and shot a look to Ma. Turn her over, Ma insisted. There was a panicked note to her voice. The Rangers are on the way, Jibby said, stepping out of the open door from the lounge. Then he saw Gemma. No! I struggled to sit up, alarmed by Jibby's tone. Gemma rolled limply under Dad's hands like an octopus dumped from a bucket. Water flowed from her mouth and nose. Oh, that's not Ma straddled her, pushing down with both hands in the middle of Gemma's back. Sea water gushed from her slack lips. Ma pushed again and again until the flow stopped. Then Pa turned Gemma over once more. Her skin was waxy white, her chest still. The two of them set to work, Pa pumping her chest, Ma blowing air into her mouth. With a sob, Cheryl turned away, dragging Hewitt with her. How long had she been down? 5 minutes? More? I didn't know. Suddenly, my parents sat back, giving up. I rolled onto my knees next to Gemma and put my mouth to hers. Her lips were cold and loose under mine. I blew as hard as I could into her lungs, trying to fill every nook with air. Quickly, I leaned over and pressed my palms to her chest, counting the way I'd been taught. Ma whispered, Ty. Ignoring her, I breathed into Gemma's mouth again, pumped her chest again. Come on, I shouted, but she didn't move. I blew into her mouth until I was lightheaded. When I put my palms on her chest again, Pa put his hands over mine. She was gone. I had taken too long to find her. I yanked my hands back from his and sat back on my heels. Ma closed Gemma's mouth and stroked her wet hair off her cheek. But Gemma was tough. Hadn't she said so every chance she got? I ripped open her t-shirt, exposing her bra. Her chest was cold and still. Zoe, I beckoned to her. Put your hands on her. Ty, don't. When Zoe didn't move, I took her hands and placed them on Gemma's chest right over her heart. Do it, I said softly. Remember, Zoe can shock people? Ugh. Tears were streaming from Zoe's eyes as she shook her head. Ty, don't make her. Ignoring Ma, I put an arm around Zoe. I shouldn't have told you to hide it. It's your gift. I hurt people, she whispered. You almost died. You can't hurt her, Zoe, but maybe you can help. I stepped away while checking that no one was standing in the puddle around Gemma. Frowning, Zoe put her hands on Gemma's chest. Without warning, her torso jumped. As my parents and the other settlers gasped, Gemma's body relaxed, lifeless. Try again, I urged. Again, her torso jumped, and again her chest fell inert. A hush fell over the group. Stricken, Joey looked up at me. That's enough, Pa said firmly. It's over, Ty, Cheryl said gently, putting a hand on my shoulder. Shrugging away from her, I hunkered next to Zoe and repositioned her palms on Gemma's chest. I whirled to the others. Is that right? Ma floundered. Yes, it looks right. Ty, this isn't. I scrambled back. Again, Zoe. Sobbing softly, Zoe shocked her again. Nothing. No more, Pa said, stepping between us. She's gone. I turned to argue, to explain that Gemma was tough, but the words curled up in my throat. Struggling to my feet, I saw Hewitt gape at something behind me. I whirled, but Gemma was still laid out on the deck, looking as lifeless as before. And then I saw it. Her hand twitched. Warm her up, Ma cried as she dropped to her knees next to Zoe. Cheryl pushed past Pa and took the other side, rubbing Gemma's limbs to get her blood flowing. Blankets! She shouted. Instantly, everyone whipped the blankets from their own shoulders and bundled them around Gemma. Kneeling by her head, I put my lips to hers and blew until my lungs were dry. I pulled back to catch my breath, and Gemma coughed, weakly at first. Then suddenly she came choking and crying back to life. Screams and cheers erupted around us. Zoe fell back with a smile as wide as the ocean trench. Color ebbed into Gemma's cheeks as she lay there, eyes closed, panting weakly. With a trembling hand, I pushed her wet bangs out of her eyes. Her lids fluttered open. More cheering broke out. She blinked at the bunch of us, all crying and grinning like crazy people. As she struggled to rise, the group rang out with cries of, "No, no, stay down, don't move." She got as far as her elbows and saw that her shirt was open. Next to her, Zoe looked more like an angel than ever, with her skin shimmering in the last wink of moonlight. Gemma cleared her throat, coughed once more, and stared hard at Zoe. "Did you shock me?" Her voice was a croak. Zoe nodded, beaming. "Don't ever do it again," she commanded, making everyone laugh. "Ty told me to," said Zoe, and Gemma followed her look. "You're right," I whispered because my throat was tight with unshed tears. I leaned in so my lips brushed her ear. "You are tough." She smiled. She started to smile, but then gasped as she looked past me. "It's morning." On the horizon, the first rays of dawn streaked across the sky and ocean. She struggled to sit up. "The Rangers are coming to take me to a reformatory." "They can't." I pulled the emancipation form from the pouch on my belt and showed it to her. "You're not a ward of the Commonwealth anymore." Shade signed it. "We didn't exactly capture him, did we?" Cheryl sat back on her knees. "Or any of them. What are we going to tell Representative Tupper?" "Tupper is our problem, not the Seablight gang," I said angrily. "True enough," said Lars, "but the wealth will keep laying the pressure on us. Whatever the reason, the government wants those boys brought in." I glanced at the paper in my hands, and an idea took shape in my mind. "We need one of these." I held up the form. "We need to give Representative Tupper an emancipation form on behalf of Benthic territory." Cheryl shook her head. "We're too dependent for that." "No," I argued, "the wealth is dependent on us. They would suffer a food shortage if we stopped paying our taxes and crops and fish." Ma caught my enthusiasm. "If the government gave us a fair price for our crops, we wouldn't need subsidies. We could afford to buy our supplies from the mainland." "The government ain't gonna give us anything," Raj scoffed. "Look," Jibby shouted, "the Rangers." Two wing ships crested the horizon, with the sun spinning, with their spun aluminum sails catching the light from the rising sun. They skimmed over the waves. I faced the group. "That's the point. We don't ask. We tell them that we're self-governing from here on out." Pa smiled. "You're talking about making Benthic, you're talking about," let me try that one more time. Pa smiled. "Are you sure you're talking about Benthic territory?" There's just a couple pages left. We'll finish this next time. So she lived. So we just had our climax, our falling action. Now we need our resolution, which will happen in the next couple of pages. So exciting. Glad you stopped by. Stay safe and healthy. Be kind to one another. I'll see you next time. Bye.